3:30.
This time I'd like to call the 27 December 2021 Jackson County Commission meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone for being here, for those that will watch later on as we post. And hope everyone had a great Christmas. At this time, would like Ms. Johnson, our Assistant County Administrator, to please call the roll to establish a quorum.
Commissioner Rich,
Present.
Commissioner Venable,
Present.
Commissioner Buckner,
Present.
Commissioner McBride,
Present.
and Chairman Nance is here also.
And we do have a quorum. Thank you very much. At this time, if everybody would rise, I'd like to ask our County Attorney, Mr. Porter, to please offer invocation, and I will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
God our Father, we're blessed to have this time of year. We're so thankful for your Son. We get to celebrate his birth this time of year, but we're also thankful for the other blessings you give us each and every day, that we can serve you and serve others and serve this community. We're thankful for those that choose to serve the public in various and different ways. We pray for them and pray for the families, especially this time of year. We pray for the members of the armed services who cannot be with their families because they're overseas or stationed elsewhere. So God, we just pray for them. I pray you'll keep them healthy, keep them safe. Watch over us all, God. Direct us and guide us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this time, as you have in your packet, the agenda for today's meeting, there are a couple of adjustments that we need to make. We were going to have a discussion on boat ramps throughout our county, and we had Mr. Henderson who was going to be here, but due to an illness, he is not available. So he will join us at a later meeting for those discussions, and so we will put it on a work session for later. Also, we would add, have an addition to go into an executive session later in our meeting due to the need to discuss matters pertaining to good name and character of an individual. So with those adjustments, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting with the deletion of work session item A and the addition of an executive session?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have any awards and presentations for today's meeting? If none, any public comment? And no public comment. So we'll move into the meeting portion. We do have an old business item today. We have several items to discuss in our meeting portion today, to include some recommendations for hiring, as well as some agreements that we need to discuss for approval. In our old business, at our last work session, we had a discussion about actions that we need to take quickly regarding Liberty Lane. One of them was to move forward with the new roof for the building. In discussions with the county attorney, he suggested that we reject the bids that we received earlier in the year in the March 8, 2021 bid opening. With that, then we look later at establishing a new spec for the tiles for the building, at least consider a new spec. So with that, do I have a motion to reject the bids for the roofing at Liberty Lane building?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, a second.
I'll second
We
that.
have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, and we will send a rejection to each of the three companies that submitted their bids. In our new business portion of the agenda today, we have a motion to adopt the minutes as provided in the packet from the November 22nd, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those and adopt those minutes?
I'll make that motion. It's read.
We have a motion, a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We have a number of recommendations for hiring personnel across our county. And so first is, we have in your packet a letter assigned by our Director of Sanitation, Ms. Brittany Green, with a recommendation for hiring. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant clerk 2 position at Solid Waste Department?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I did hear that, AJ. That was good. Okay, next, in your packet, we have a recommendation from our county engineer. And this is in regards to the hiring of the vacant HMT1 position at Public Works.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll
We have a
second that.
second. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Also in the packet is a recommendation from our county engineer for the hiring of an assistant county engineer.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. In your packet, you have a recommendation for a promotion and selection of for the new position established, and we've already previously approved the job description, but for a grant and project coordinator. Do we have a motion to accept the hiring committee's recommendation?
No, I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. At our last work session that we had discussion of a surplus 2002 Mack reloading refuse truck at Solid Waste. We had gotten an appraisal for that truck and then got an offer to purchase that truck, and we determined that to be, though it was slightly below the fair market value, we find that it's in keeping with serving the customers of the citizens of our county. And so we have a motion to approve and sign a resolution regarding the local road, the 2002 Mack rear loading refuse truck at Solid Waste. Do we have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Also in your packet, our county engineer presented last time the resolution regarding the local road safety initiative project number JCP 365921. That resolution is in your packet to be signed by all of the Jackson County Commissioners. Do I have a motion to approve and sign resolution regarding local road safety initiative project number JCP 365921?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have 2 agreements in the package that are annually each year we sign in support of services offered throughout our county. That is an agreement between our Jackson County Commission Council of Aging, the first one, and with the Mountain Lakes Behavioral Health Care. Do I have a motion to approve and sign the resolution and agreement between Jackson County Commission and Mountain Lakes Behavioral Health Care?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The second agreement between Jackson County's Commission's Council of Aging is with the Jackson County Nutrition Program. Very similar motion or agreement. So do we have a motion to approve and sign the resolution and agreement between Jackson County Commission and the Jackson County Nutrition Program?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, a motion, a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
In our previous work session, we had a discussion by our county engineer, Director of Public Works, regarding the evaluation of options that we had for our geotechnical consultant for County Road 93 and County Road 38. This time, any comments from our county engineer?
Be happy to answer any questions if there are any from the previous discussion.
Any questions or discussion? If none, do I have a motion to approve the geotechnical consultant recommendation for County Road 93 and County Road 38?
I'd like to recommend S and ME due to the scoring from the Public Works Department. They scored this company the highest, and I'd make the motion that we go with that company.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Also, at our last session, we had a discussion of our 2021 County Rebuild Alabama Annual Report. That report is in your packet. So I have a motion to approve the FY 2021 County Rebuild Alabama Annual Report.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Last of our new business schedule, we had a recommendation last time for the purchase of heavy-duty trucks at Public Works, and that was presented by our county engineer. Before we vote, any questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of heavy-duty trucks at Public Works as presented by the county engineer?
I'll make the motion that we go with Kenworth on all of them unless anything's changed from our previous discussions.
And I'll
Okay.
second.
We have a motion, have a second, and we do. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. So at this time, we will move into our work session. As we mentioned earlier, our first item will be deferred to a later session. We have two discussions at the commission section, item B. First is on our sick leave donation policy. You will see in your packet some comments by our county attorney. And so let me turn it over to Mr. Porter, if I could, for your comments. But before you proceed, let me offer. About a month ago, we had brought to us by the Sheriff's Department a request to consider donation of leave to a deputy that was pregnant and close to the delivery. We agreed that we would take that up and carry that and put that before the commission. We looked at a lot of different organizations, different municipalities, states, and counties. I guess the bottom line, I would say that though each would apply those differently, and many of them did allow donation for delivery of their sick leave, donated sick leave, that does not require us to follow any of those specific guidelines. So this is a motion or a consideration before the commission as to whether we would consider that as a part of our sick leave donation policy. So let me turn it over to Mr. Porter at this time for any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We looked at this based upon the question that was posed, and the question has to do with donation of sick leave under our policy for a normal pregnancy, basically maternity leave as I understand it. This is not a discussion of any difficulties or complications regarding pregnancy. This is strictly a question about what we would normally refer to as maternity leave. And if we look at our policy, there's a couple of things to look at in the policy. Our policy as it exists right now regarding sick leave covers pregnancy and maternity. For normal sick leave, you can use your sick leave for that purpose, for maternity leave, childbearing, and recovery. It's also consistent with the Family Medical Leave Act, which is a federal act that is imposed upon all public sector employers, including Jackson County, which provides for sick leave for basically as maternity leave to both the father and the mother. And that is, FMLA does not require pay for that, at least as I put in my memo, unless they have passed the Build Better Act in Congress while we weren't looking. If they did that, then this would change everything, but I don't think they have, so that doesn't apply. And so we really have to look at what our policy says. Our policy does provide for the donation of paid sick leave from one employee to another employee under certain circumstances. And those circumstances are limited. It's not clear, perfectly clear in the policy, but the way the policy is currently written, it does not specifically include maternity leave. Again, not talking about complications from pregnancy or that kind of situation, strictly for maternity leave. Our current policy does not specifically cover donation of sick leave for that purpose. However, if you go back and read the sick leave policy that we have, it equates sick leave with other type of maternity and pregnancy leave with other types of leave. So there is a question in there of whether it applies or not. It does not appear to the way it is specifically written. So it is not specifically included in the ability for one employee to donate sick leave for another employee.
One of the questions that came up earlier was if sick leave was donated and were allowed to be used for this, would that donated, the individual using the sick leave would be paid or compensated at the rate of the individual who was donating the leave? I believe the answer is that it cannot exceed the rate of the individual requesting the sick leave.
Correct.
The current handbook policy, you said it didn't mention pregnancy or maternity, but the chronic illness, and that's the way it.
Yes, sir. Long-term chronic illness.
Long-term chronic illness.
It states suffering from chronic or long-term illness.
Do we currently, in that policy, require somebody to have a certain number of hours before they can donate hours to somebody else?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
No. You could donate down to 0 hours.
There's no policy that states that.
Well, with it being a pregnancy, I mean, we have several husband and wives that work here. So if
Right.
the husband donated 100% of his time, and then there was a difficulty in the after the child was born,
Right.
and he was out of time, of course he could request donation from other employees, but should we put a minimum amount of time that you can't drop below this to still be able to donate to people? Just asking a question, what everybody thinks. I mean, we don't have to, but I mean,
Right.
should we? And if we're gonna do it for pregnancy, we really need to go back and do it for everything, not just the maternity.
Right. And let me add this. This is strictly a matter of county policy. There is no state, federal law that requires you to donate or to allow donation of sick leave. This is something the county has done, which is consistent with other public employers. So this is strictly a matter of county policy.
I think there are also provisions about when and how much sick leave you can turn in at retirement.
Correct.
And if it's not retirement and you leave the county, you cannot you cannot turn in any sick leave, if I remember right. You can tell me I'm absolutely wrong.
If you retire, you get paid 100% of your sick time up to 1,200 hours. If you resign or are terminated, you get paid half of your sick time up to 1,200 hours.
Okay.
So,
I guess where I'm going is, if we put some kind of prohibition on that, we would have to put that in consideration of those kind of requirements regarding sick leave.
so this is just for sick leave, not PTO or comp time?
Sick
Can we-
leave the donation is only sick time according to our policy. And when you convert service time to the retirement system of Alabama, you can only convert sick time. You can't convert your annual or your comp. So all of these policies fall directly under sick time. And as Mr. Porter mentioned, this is an optional policy. If the commission chose to, they can completely do away with the policy, or you can choose to allow the donations like other government entities, and this is just how it's currently stated.
So for FMLA, you have to be with a company or an entity for 12 months.
Yes,
Right.
We require 6-month probation, so
correct.
would we make it only for people that have been through their 6-month probation, but could be less than 12 months?
We currently do allow, just a thought there, we do allow a person who is within the 6 months, they're allowed to accumulate sick leave. And if they have a reason for use of sick leave, they can use that sick leave during that period.
But can they be donated sick leave
Right now, they
when they're under 6 months?
There's
Well,
no policy that states during the 6 months that you can't either accept. I personally wouldn't think we would allow them to donate during their 6 months because they're not technically supposed to be using their time during the 6-month probationary period. We have a situation where someone has the flu or COVID, a funeral, we're certainly going to understand that. But during the 6 months, you're supposed to be responsible with your annual time and your sick time, and then take it after the probationary period is over, if at all possible.
Or would we require anybody that's requesting donation to have a minimum amount of time that they already have banked? I mean, if they're down to 0, would we be willing to let people donate to them if they're at 0 hours?
I'll just give you a personal opinion, and I would say yes. We invest a lot of time in hiring and recruiting employees of the county, in training them, particularly in cases of law enforcement or public works or others. We do put money into doing that. This is another case to make sure I'm right, but if a person is under the 1-year FMLA, right now I think they're not allowed, am I right? They're not allowed FMLA unless they have a year's service.
They're supposed to-
Where I'm trying to go real quick with this, and I may be misunderstanding you, is if a person does not have enough sick leave to cover, and they are not covered under FMLA, how do we help them remain an employee of this county through an illness of length? Can we help, by doing this, do we help employees want to stay as a member of in our employment of the county?
So over the course of 6 months, a new employee should have close to 3 weeks eligible in sick leave and PTO, and possibly comp time. So if they've zeroed out on all 3 categories, you're saying you still would be willing to give them or the opportunity to get donated time when they've not been responsible with their time?
I don't know that I would call everybody not being responsible with their time. If they're having a medical condition and they need medical help and they would need to use sick leave, then I think we would encourage them to take the sick leave during that period of time. So I guess it is, whether or not we want to establish a policy that would allow an employee to request donation of sick leave regardless of whether they've got 6 months or a year. And that donation doesn't cost the commission anything, I believe, because that is donated sick leave time from another individual. And it helps, in my mind, assure that this individual is taken care of, is getting medical attention that they need, and in the long term, I believe helps us maintain the employee of good individuals that we have hired and trained and put on the job. I'm in support of policy allowing this use of sick leave for pregnancy and childbirth.
So,
But that's just my view.
I'm sorry, so our next step would be to revise the policy? Is that revise in writing? We need to sit down and come up with that agreement here or at a later date, or what do we need to do?
I do think we need to clarify the policy, regardless of whether we do this or not.
Right, that's.
I think the policy, the way it is written, is not clear.
I agree.
And there are going to be multiple cases where we're going to have folks come to us and request sick leave that I think that we're going to get in the same conversation again if we don't clarify the policy.
Regardless of what we decide to do, I'm with you. I feel like we need to be more clear on our policy.
One of the issues you need to address if you're going to make a modification is, I think, in regard to under the sick leave portion, allowing maternity leave basically, only applicable to the mother under FMLA. Fathers are entitled to FMLA just like mothers. So that's an issue you need to look at. You need to look at if you want fathers to be able to take sick leave.
I don't think we can discriminate.
No, we can't.
And also, what about adoption? I mean, if somebody adopts an infant, they go on maternity leave and request time be donated. I mean,
Okay, and is there any way to define what we can use sick leave for? Is there a list for that?
There is.
There is.
So could we not use the same list for this policy of allowing people to donate, because, I mean, I just think that would be the fairest.
There are currently 4 criteria under the sick leave policy for which you can request sick leave. One of them is pregnancy.
So do we want to take the time to try and relook the policy and clarify the policy as to what donated sick leave, or what an individual can request donated sick leave for?
yeah, I'd be willing to look at, a written policy and, those are the only questions I can think of today, but I may have additional questions.
You will find various definitions of that. FMLA has a definition, they have a list. Alabama FMLA law has a list that they provide. You can go to other government agencies, so we can take a look at all of those and then sort of come to an agreement with what is considered. I do think, I will offer that I think we need to be careful that we don't make it so broad that anybody can come in for any condition and request donated sick leave.
I agree.
So with that, if we want to take an action, we can take an action to work with HR and get some proposed, it really becomes, I think, a definition of what we're meaning in our policy, and get that put together and bring it to the commission. I would recommend we sort of coordinate it amongst the commissioners if we can do that. and let each commissioner take a look and provide their comments, and then try to bring it together and bring it before the commission for another work session discussion and vote. Is that
I'm good with that.
agreeable?
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree with that.
Okay. Okay, with that, next item for commission is roof at Liberty Lane. In the discussion we had in our work session last week, we discussed moving forward, and we need to move forward quickly with getting that building re-roofed. In your packet, you will find a list of what we used really as sort of the specifications for our last when we went out for bids previously. That one did require a 35-year shingle. We got our bids back in that we saw earlier that we were rejecting the price of those bids. It seemed, I will ask the question of the commissioners who were here at the time. It seemed that the issue that we ran into was the 35-year shingle.
Right.
And
Due to the housing market and the demand for shingles, they're only producing, the shingles that are bought the most. So Mr. Campbell was nice enough to help write the bid spec, and we didn't know what the housing market was going to do. And that requirement really forced the price up on the bids. I think the bids would be considerably less because they're considered now a special order shingle, where they used to be held in stock. They're not held in stock anymore. They're a special order shingle.
is this a matter of redefining the shingle to a 30 or 25-year shingle or
Yes.
something of that nature?
Yes. I think we could go to a 30-year shingle, which would be comparable in the lifespan for the roof. I think that building's been there like 26 years now, and it needs a roof. And the shingles that are on it are a 35-year shingle. But my personal house, I've been 17 years, and I've got a 25-year shingle on it, and I don't look to replace my roof very soon.
So if we were to the only adjustment we were to make to this spec would redefine the shingle to 30 and bring it back to the commission for vote approval to release for bid.
Might not be a bad idea to maybe call some supply stores and see what their stock shingles are. If it's a 30-year shingle or a 25-year shingle or whatever, find out what their stock shingle is from a few different suppliers, and they'll most likely all be the same because they all get them from the same place.
Shingles, like everything else right now, is everything going sky high?
Yeah, but it's not as bad as some things. I mean, it's
Not like the PVC pipe.
availability is the problem right now. If you're building a house anytime soon, you better order your appliances before you dig your footings, because it's taking 6 months to get some appliances.
Has anybody thought about maybe going with a metal roof?
I'm glad to answer.
I don't know.
We could amend the spec. I don't know, how would we go about that? Would you solicit for bids for both in one
Either or.
advertisement? Or how would you go about doing that? Mr. Campbell's probably more familiar with bid specs than any of us.
I'm probably not the best resource to tap into on industrial construction on that, but I would think you could leave it open to a certain gauge metal roof, but I think you would need to get specific on sand and seam or the other conventional, and then addressing all the other areas of your eaves, gables, rates, all the trim, on the way that would go. So there's probably a lot of areas to touch in leaving the options open that way. It may be better to decide what you want and spec it specifically, or leave an option on approved equal, or something to where if folks presenting their option, they have a good solution, perhaps it could be something for your consideration that you may approve that's it's perhaps like you're talking unavailable or a good supplement to whatever you're requesting.
Could we, your suggestion, Jason, is get with a supplier store. We ought to be able to ask what is the cost of tin roofing right now and try to run a quick estimate on our part about what that would cost versus a 30-year shingle. Bring that before the commission decided which one would we want to go out with a bid. I think you would have a difficulty going out with a bid that has an either or. We would not be able to evaluate. I don't think
Mr. Nance,
bids
that
that
bid-
are of separate spec requirements. Yes, please.
that what was submitted, the committee, the building committee submitted, it was in there was a price in there. I don't remember if it was metal and shingles. Did you remember looking at it? So I don't remember if he priced metal and shingles in there. It seemed like he was going to.
Okay.
Mr. Tubbs, of course, Mr. Tubbs was with the company that built the building to start with. He does the bid processing for that general contractor. So I would think you could look at that, what we submitted, the committee submitted, and get a pretty good idea of what it would cost.
Okay, we could look at that and see if we had an estimate of either metal roof or shingle roof. So, okay, so we want to do that and bring that back to our next meeting. Look at price options between metal roof and shingle. Okay, any other questions or discussions on that or recommendations on how we should proceed here?
As all the leaks are fixed, we don't have any leaking at the moment, right, Kobe?
I feel like it's the same as it was. I mean, we weren't really commissioned to go over there to fix it or anything yet. We're just trying to figure out what
So
we're
is
gonna
it
do.
still leaking at the moment?
Yeah, we need to move.
I thought it was already patched or whatever.
Okay, any other questions or discussion in our work session? Okay, with that, let me proceed with the reports from the staff. First, County Administrator. Nothing? Okay, our County Engineer.
That's certainly.
Okay, thank you. County Attorney.
Oh, we don't think.
Okay. Any discussion, revenue?
We talked earlier, this morning we had just shy of 10,000 people that hasn't paid their taxes yet. But right now, that's just shy of 8,000, so we had 2,000 people pay today. But I was telling Mr. Nance, over the next 3 days, so that's thousands of people that's gonna be coming in the doors. And I just wasn't sure about how the COVID is doing now. But Colby helped me we did get the stanchions down the hallway and some arrows. And if you could just, when you see people or if people watch this meeting later, remind them, you do have until Monday to pay without a penalty. And if they do come in here and there are big crowds, we just like to urge people to continue to social distance. We've got markers on the floor now. They just we just don't want a big crowd of people in here. I know a lot of people are sick right now, whether it's COVID or what. We just don't want a lot of people crowding in here. It looks like they're going along pretty good.
Can you still pay online?
Pay online, you can mail it in as long as it's postmarked by the 3rd.
Postmarked by the 3rd, or
You pay online till midnight that night.
midnight that night.
Can we offer a drive-up service?
We might at Liberty Lane.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Would we want to suggest to folks that if they're sick, clearly if they haven't already been diagnosed with COVID, they do not need to, they just need to make sure that they quarantine as required. But if they're sick and do not yet know, I think we would recommend that they not come to the courthouse in that condition.
Right.
Could
Yeah,
we-
We definitely don't want them coming in. I can't say, you can say, well, we'll waive the penalties, but I mean, honestly, they've had 3 months to pay, so.
Right.
It's hard to waive penalties for somebody because they say they had COVID or because they do have COVID. When you've actually had 3 months to pay, the way the code works, it's due October 1st. It's just not past due until December 31st. So I know everybody, I'm the same way. I paid mine last week. You know, most people wait till the end, but technically it was due October 1st. So I don't know that we can waive any penalties, but hey, if they'll call me, I'll send Victor to their house to get it. We'll make arrangements. If they'll call me, we'll make some kind of arrangements if they're sick and haven't paid yet. We'll figure something out. We just don't want them coming here sick.
So you had to pay land tax too? I thought yours was free.
No.
So what we want to do is, we just want to caution folks that when they come to the courthouse, if they prefer wearing masks, we do ask them social distance, and honor that. And the floors are marked, so that everybody could see the distancing between folks. So that's where we are.
It's like the again, urge them if they're not sick. I mean, if they're sick, stay home. You know, contact us. We'll figure something out, but stay home. It's not worth the $2 penalty to come down here sick and make other people sick. We'll figure something out.
Okay.
Just contact us.
Thank you. A few more items just for discussion, real quick. Mr. Dylan Smith has submitted his letter of resignation to the Healthcare Authority Board because of his new job. He is gone quite often and unable, he feels, to properly serve that authority. We will need to submit a request for folks to apply for that board position. We'll do that starting first week of, I propose the first week of January, and try to get those in time for our second meeting in January to make a decision. I do have a letter here from the Alabama Historical Commission designating the Foshi Cemetery in Stevenson to be listed in the Alabama Historical Cemetery Registry. So, Mr. Rich, I'm not sure, but I will pass that letter to you. So
Right, yeah, I seen it earlier today.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah,
And one other note, the Jackson County Water Authority did release the Oneville project for bid last week. And we have submitted the packet to the Invest in Alabama counties to be reviewed to give their thumbs up that we can use ARPA funding for that project. So that is proceeding. So next, we'll move to comments from the commissioners. District 4 Commissioner McBride.
And just like to say, continue to pray for those who are sick. Hey Jay, I hope you get to feeling better soon. And remember our county in your prayers, that we make the decisions that are right to help move our county forward, and pray for our country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Buckner?
No, nothing today, sir, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and we hope you get to feeling better. Commissioner Venable, District 2.
I just like to wish everybody a happy and blessed New Year.
Thank you. District 1, Commissioner Rich.
I don't have anything today. Thank you, sir.
Okay, and I too would like to wish everybody a happy new year, and just remind and hope everybody is safe through this period. With that, I'd like to get a motion to enter an executive session to discuss matters pertaining to the good name and character of an individual. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye. Motion carries. With that, if we could just